especially with how the plantation closed, the life has changed tremendously. But do you think that anything has stayed the same about Kīlauea?
Well, I know where I live, I get plantation people, and they're all the same. We all, click.
A lot of the families have stayed.
Yeah, where I stay, get the locals from plantation. I'm surrounded by them.
Do you think that you were talking about earlier how everybody shares and gives
plantation
and stuff.
time.
Is that still, you still see that happening?
Sometimes. Not as much as plantation. Not as much as plantation.
Yeah.
See, at plantation,
Before, more high hedge or some guys no more fence in between. I know we never had for the two sides. So, it all depends where you live.
what it is we were rich and poor. We were rich in love and poor financially. That's why, sharing and caring was an important thing in growing up. Right. That you shared a lot because you gave from the heart. And, when you wanted something, you'd have to earn it. You'd have to go clean somebody's yard or go to the chicken fight with Gary Smith and, hope that he had the winning chicken. But, it was, you worked what you wanted for. It's not like now. I remember, hey, I like to take out the girl. Can I have money? Yeah, here's $1. Hey, the ticket is $1. What am I going to eat and drink? You go find your own money. But, that's how it was. And, you improvise and you go do things so that you could do that, facilitate your needs.
Yeah.
My husband used to go chicken fight too, not only in Gary guy's age. My husband's group used to go too.
Oh, yeah.
I had to drop in one time in Kapa'a, Kipana Road. Drop him. He waved if he get away for go home. Otherwise, I had to come back. But
oh my goodness,
it's his day off on Sunday, The rest of the week he gave to the kids. So why not? He enjoyed going chicken fight.
Yeah.
At night time he used to go play cards. He tell the kids, I go to school. They go play. They play cards. My father took me home with the kids.
Yeah.
So they enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy the plantation days because everybody, helped each other and they care. And, friendly, everything. You're safe.
Right.
Yeah.
More safe than now.
Hey, Toku, Jack's dad, he used to work all alone.
Yes.
And in the morning, he'd go take the orders. In the afternoon, he'd go and with the paper boxes tied with string, and either the bango number or the house number on, and he'd go and chow lang. He was the grease monkey and the meat cutter, and they'd cut the meat that the people would like, and Toku would go, and he'd walk right in the house and put the meat and stuff in the refrigerator because there was no lock.
Oh.
He'd bring the box of goodies, put it on the table, the meat or pork or whatever, he'd put it in the refrigerator. So there was no spoilage because locking door was, what is that lock? It was a trusting community where everybody treated each other as family.
Right.
In those days when they migrated, the Japanese and the Filipinos, you had the women working in the cane fields. And they would wear long sleeve shirts and they would bind it on the sleeves and on the legs so that no centipedes or anything would go under them. And they would wear over their faces wrap and then with the big hats. And they would wear tabis in the fields and gloves. And they worked very, very hard. And they would have the cut seed gang, and most of that was the Filipinos that they migrated. They would cut seed, and it depend on how many of that they would fill, and that's how they got paid. But they worked very, very hard in the cane fields. The old Japanese ladies, the Filipinos, they worked very, very hard when they were migrated into the islands.
My mother-in-law worked in the cane field after my father-in-law fell in the ocean. Obi, carried the baby. Texas said the mother carried the baby on her back and go work.
Oh my goodness.
Because, the two older ones go to school. But you learn to manage. Plantation time, you learn to manage. What's good days? Hard but good days.
You could pasture anybody's yard.
Yeah.
Nobody said, hey, what are you doing in my property?
Right.
You just walk through, and nobody complained. Today, you put one foot in someone's property, what are you doing on my property?
Right.
It's very, very different.
You know what was good? When Gary guys came, the boys, so Herbie and them, they all played. They played with the local kids. They just like local. Not like they was born in Kīlauea. I mean, they really got along with all the local.
And nobody treated, because they were the manager's sons, that they shy away.
Not that I know of it. I didn't.
But they just blended in like they were born and raised here in Kīlauea. And they learned to speak Pidgin and go into the traditions that we had. I remember his older brother, Bobby. He was 1 year older than me. His sister and I were classmates.
Okay.
And we used to go to the manager's house. And then we'd go swimming in the river with him. We used to call him Bebop.
Bebop.
That was his nickname, Bebop. And then we'd be running down, go and jump in the water. And then he'd come out, he says, I forgot to take my glasses off. And they try go looking for his glasses, but it's all mud underneath. So he said, oh, I go home, my mother's gonna kill me. Because he lost his glasses at least every other month. Because he forgot to take his glasses off jumping in the water because he was so excited. But, like I say, he just blended in like, and the twins were like angels compared to his brother.
Really?
Yeah.
People didn't
Keith
know
and Gary
what they were
were,
doing. That's why.
we looked up to them as, these guys says they follow the father's footstep. Bebop is the radical.
But in those days, the managers would have a big party for all the workers. And we look forward to that as kids. We would go up there, and everybody was out in the yard at the big boss's yard.
Yeah.
And a huge yard.
To that.
Wow.
Huge yard. His dad used to have Alfonso Bautista. I remember him with his lawnmower, with the riding seat, and he'd keep that place really nice.
Wow.
Mowing the yard. And then we would come and Bobby would terrorize the place. Burning rubber with his mother's Buick.
So it didn't really matter then that they were the boss's kids. You guys still socialized
Yeah.
with
Oh, yeah.
them, and
He was just like another worker's son.
I babysat them.
oh yeah.
I babysat them for.
I did babysit Gary guys.
So were the
Gary
twins really
P-
angels, or were they just too smart to be caught?
They weren't too bad. The older brother would say, I don't have to listen to you. You're not my mother.
Oh.
He would say that to me all the time, yeah. I babysat, she did, and Dorothy did.
Oh.
I
Different
babysit Gary
times.
guys. I enjoyed Gary guys.
Yeah.
The first time that I babysat, they paid me with dollar bills. And my dad picks me up. And when we get home, my dad says, did you get paid? And I said, yeah. Where's the money? I don't know. He says, where is the money? If they paid you, where is it? I said, I don't know. So the next morning, early in the morning, my dad said, okay, let's take a ride and see where it is. All was scattered all over in the yard. I dropped it.
Oh,
It was all over the yard.
Oh
my
my
dad
gosh.
said, you're very careless.
And you know,
So I had to go and pick it up all wet from the
oh
dew
my
on the
God.
grass.
At least it was still there.
Yeah, it was still there. It was in their yard,
Yeah.
you know.
Gary
But-
Smith folks were lucky. They had very, very good parents. His mother, his dad was very, very good, friendly and everything. They were really good. He lucky he had good parents, honest.
Well, look at them now.
Yeah.
Now
You know?
they're taking their place.
Yes.
He's good with his grandchildren,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
They're like he's stopping all over taking care of his grandchildren, but
I know.
We used to
it's
build
right there, Gary.
canoes with
Yes.
galvanized iron
Mm-hmm.
and nailed the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then you test it in the ditch.
Okay.
If the water leaked, well, you got to take it out.
Mhm.
And we would put that, what do you call that, tar? The black tar?
Yeah.
That's what we would use to patch the holes with that. And then we would write it in the ditch. Yeah, in the ditch we would write it.
Oh, the ditch was big then.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it was
That's
good
where a lot
size.
of the kids learn how to swim.
Yeah.
What's clean?
Was clean.
What's
Wow.
clean?
They couldn't throw anything.
Wow.
And what's clean? Don't that well.
You know what?
We
was.
learn how to swim
You know
up there.
when they used to harvest the cane.
Yes.
You know, they'd push the cane and they'd burn it. So if you'd be swimming, you gotta watch out because the rats would come like jets over the bank, jumping.
I never saw
because
that.
I never see that.
well, I saw it a lot because we'd be swimming and watch out, boom, boom, the
Oh.
rats come running, jumping over the thing because hey, the cane is burning
Right.
and they're escaping.
You know, they talk a lot, we read a lot in the books, and recollections about that plantation life was really a tough life.
Tough,
You know.
but
But
to me was good.
what do you miss about it? What do you miss about that life, and what do you kind of still maybe wish was the same?
I think it's the community always came together. Everybody looked after each other.
And they get to, they get to togetherness.
I mean, if somebody saw your children getting into trouble, they would do something about it. They wouldn't just walk away. And I mean, there was
A giant family.
a lot of love and care about each other. It was like one big family. You know, one didn't say, "Oh, your kids can't play with my kids," or "You can't come in my yard." There was no such a thing. And the word diet was never known. You know, if you had a fat baby, you had a healthy baby those days,
Yeah.
And nobody said anything. Like today is so different, you know. And I mean, it was, like I say, one big family.
Yeah.
Everybody did things together.
Yeah.
And if you needed help, you asked anyone, and they were right there to help you, no matter who they were, no matter what culture they came from.
Wow.
Even as they migrated different cultures, they still all intermingled together. And you miss that today because it's so different.
Plenty strangers are right now. Plenty strangers.
You gotta watch. It's one of the good things. When I was ready to build, I was gonna exchange with a guy that had a lot on Kīlauea Road because he wasn't working. So I said, "Hey, let's swap land so that you can find job or something, and then you could build where I did." And the Lord works in strange way, and He says, "Don't," because where I live now, we don't own the road. The kids own the road.
Oh.
The kids,
What kids?
They play,
Belle's great grandson, the neighbor,
Yeah.
and Landagora's grandkids. Hey, they're the one that rules the road. They made hopscotch and even on Cherry Raposo, next to my cousin, she has that preschool, I think, in her garage. And one day I passed and there was hopscotch on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I went like, oh, your kids are taking over like the kids on our street.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell my wife, when you turn left over here, you gotta watch because the kids own the road. You know, they hear the car or whatever. They know by the sound of the car. They know it's you. They will come out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're on the Kīlauea Road, forget it.
Yeah.
Guys are driving like jets.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the thing is, back here is quiet, although we get one neighbor that's ridiculous with his dogs.
But you know, we had that old Model Ts before.
Mm-hmm.
So one person in the car and the other one cranking
Mm-hmm.
to get the car going.
Yeah.
And you yelling at each other, pull the choke, pull the choke. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And then as soon as it stops, you take out the crank. You gotta put it back in the car, or else you're not gonna go get that car started.
That's right.
And we would have that old
Yeah.
Model T. That's how we got around. And people in Kīlauea
Mm-hmm.
did not travel to the west side.
Oh.
You didn't know people on the
Too
west
far.
side. People didn't travel very much.
Mm.
Not everybody had a car,
Mm-hmm.
and very few people had a phone
Mm.
and no TV.
Mm-hmm.
All
Well,
we
we
had
had-
was the radio.
No, we had TV.
We
But you
did
had to-
not have TV.
You had to have one coat on because it had so much snow.
Well, in our days, we did not.
We had.
We just had the radio,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how my mom used to listen to her stories,
Oh.
her
the
soap
radio.
operas on the radio.
Oh my goodness.
And that's how we got the news and everything. And then in those days, the houses, we had black paper on your windows.
Mm.
Because if enemy planes would fly over, they would not see your light.
Right.
That was blackout time.
Blackout
Right.
those days.
That was during the war years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they digged like well, what do you call that? Underground, so that we could go in.
Bomb shelter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they dug it. It was all dirt, and then they put the galvanized roofing
Mm-hmm.
and cover it and cut steps, and we had to go in there once in a while with our little lanterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the war days.
The other thing is, you know, whenever you went to a service station,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot say, oh, give me $5 worth. You say, give me 1 gallon or 2 gallons because
Right.
you get a hand pump, you pump, and then you watch the gas go up in the glass container.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you say you want 4 gallons
Mm-hmm.
and your Model A takes only 3.5 gallons, you pay for the 4 and the other half gallon is either you put them in one container or you give them to the next guy.
Oh.
It was all hand pump. So you don't even worry about running out of electricity.
Right.
And I think one of the last places they had that was Anahola.
Mm.
You know where they have the fruit stand
Mm-hmm.
before the store on the right side as you go in Kapa?
Mhm.
Down there, that was the service station.
Oh.
And I remember Mrs. Hamamura, they owned the store, and the daughter owns the whole place now. But we used to go there with my Model A, and she used to say, how many? I think only 2 gallons today because this Model A no take plenty. And sometime to the last drop, and it would be full.
You know, also when we were real little, my mother cooked on a wood stove.
Mm-hmm.
And then we graduated the wood stove and went to the kerosene stove.
Oh.
And then from the kerosene stove, then we went to the gas stove.
That's why you had to chop wood every Saturday. Because everything was wood.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you gotta make the furo whether it's raining or not. In the storms, my job was to go make the furo. But it's raining, I'm gonna get wet. So put the umbrella, make, but no like light because the things they wet. Put kerosene and don't let it blow up in you. So you throw the wood and you light on newspaper, and then you light it. And once it started burning, it was out of there. Let the thing, hope that it burns all the way.
Oh my goodness. Crazy.
But
my
my
mother
neighbor,
baked bread 3 times a week.
Wow.
My dad would not eat store bread.
Wow.
So she baked bread, and sometimes she made extra, and we would go and sell the bread to help,
Pay for it.
for things, and we did that. My dad baked the Portuguese sweet bread.
Not your mom.
No, my mom made the white bread.
Oh.
But my dad, he'd bake, but he'd leave all his mess for us to clean up.
and I was the quality control.
Oh.
The raw dough, my mom would be making the sweet bread, and I was holding the pan, and she'd turn around to go get flour or whatever, and she would say, "Yeah, eat. The thing gonna rise in your stomach, and your stomach gonna explode."
Oh my gosh.
Ma, cannot be. She says, see, I make the bread now. Tomorrow morning, the thing is rising. Why? The bread rises. But she never said that she put the garlic in the middle and cover it with the rag for the thing to rise.
Oh.
She just says, you gonna eat the raw dough, your stomach gonna blow up because the thing gonna rise in your stomach.
Portuguese style, they make the cross,
Yes.
and then they put the garlic.
Then you stick it
The
right
garlic
middle.
in the white bread. Or in the sweet bread.
Sweet bread too?
Oh, sweet bread too.
Even malasadas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Somehow the garlic.
It's the garlic to keep
I don't
the
know
bad
why.
spirits away.
And so you bake it with the garlic.
No,
You take the
no.
garlic out.
Yeah.
Before you make the bread, it's only the
You
dough.
mix the bread during
Roll it.
the evening,
Uh-huh.
and then after you're done and it's ready, then you make the cross, you put the garlic, and then you put one blanket over for the thing to
Hard work.
rise.
Yeah.
In other words, no catch color.
Yeah.
You have to cover it.
And you know the best part? When you cook them with the kerosene. Because the kerosene fumes makes it taste better. Even like when you fry fish. When you fry fish, if you use kerosene, well, like now, you use the propane and stuff.
Before it was
But-
kerosene stove.
Yes.
The kerosene stove. And I used to crank them up because I like them to thing cook quick.
Oh.
My mom used to come, you had put the fryer too high. I never make them, Ma. I have them regular. Yeah, look at the frying pan, all black. It's because you had cranked up the wick too high.
Well, the Portuguese, they had their famous malasadas. And the costume of the Portuguese was the day before Ash Wednesday, the Tuesday, you would bake a pound sweet bread. And it was hard to do it because you did
Yeah.
a big pan. And then they would do it. You had to do it at night, and you get up like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to cook it. And what you did is you gave all your neighbors, and you distribute to your families for them to eat for the poor souls. And that was the Portuguese custom. And as we grew up and we got married, we each made our own
Oh.
for our families. And we would distribute because the other nationalities didn't make it.
Right.
So we would give them a little bag with the malasadas, and that was the custom of the Portuguese.
Well, we're so grateful to you guys for coming to share your memories about growing up in Kīlauea and on the plantation. Any final thoughts or?
I got a question.
Oh.
What if you were here, plantation closed in 1971.
One.
If you were here on that last day, what happened? What was it like? What do you remember?
They blow
It
the
was
whistles.
Yeah, it was a real sad day that a lot of people were crying because, hey, the original, when you were growing up is you work for the plantation, that's your lifetime job. You're going to live, retire, and die as a plantation person. And it as you saw the mill being disassembled and stuff, the smokestack coming down, I don't know who has the whistle or the siren of the plantation, but whoever has that, it's a collector's item because you don't see things like that. The whistle was with steam, and then the siren was with electric.
Because when there was going to be a tsunami, they would.
That would be
Sound.
the warning sign.
Yeah, but they never know if the 46 was on April Fool.
Yeah.
So they didn't know.
They thought it was a joke.
And
Yeah.
They never know what's tidal wave, but when somebody came up and tell tidal wave, they never believe,
Right.
you know. But
Because this was something new, tidal wave.
everybody
Like
thought
hurricane.
April Fool because you know.
So overall, the community was just really sad that
Yeah.
last day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Was an
broke a lot
era
of the
that
old
came
folks'
to an
hearts.
Mm,
That's why
That was their
you gotta work.
livelihood, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had to go work in my own hospital
Mm-hmm.
because only him without. I haven't worked before him. He worked in January. I worked in December. You know, we should never like to work. So
Most of the women stayed home in those days.
no,
They didn't work. Most of them.
plenty of them have worked 2 and 3 jobs.
Well, when at the plantation, anytime I had 3 whistle, Dr. Ishii camped in Wilcox 9 months later.
Yeah.
Because the kids were all at school, mama was home, daddy never worked, so, well, the cat's away, the rats will play. So, yeah, but I was working for the phone company already from 1970, and I saw the trend in 71 when the plantation closed.
Everybody
Because
said.
I was living in Anahola with my wife's grandma,
Mm-hmm.
but I used to come to Kīlauea because, hey, my parents lived there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my family was there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
In those days, every weekend the families would get together.
Yeah.
You know, family was important. And everybody, I would drive from the west side every weekend.
Oh.
And I would come with my family.
Yeah.
And we would all gather at my mother's house.
Mm-hmm.
And every Friday night or Saturday night, she would make a big pot of Portuguese soup.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody would come, either eat there or come with their pots to take home soup for their family.
Yeah.
My mother always did that. And Sundays, we would all gather at her house.
Mm-hmm.
We would go to the beach and we would have dinner at her house
Nice.
every Sunday. You don't see much of that today.
Mm-hmm.
you get some people that do it, but
There's
not very
some
many
families.
families.
Yeah. Some
Very
families
few.
still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the Pikes. Still get together a lot.
They still do.
Especially
They
Thursday.
always did from way back when Julia was alive.
Yes.
You know.
Oh,
But that
those
has
were the
fallen
days.
along the side a lot.
Those were the
Families are
days, boy.
separated.
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
Yeah.
I
It's
need
very sad.
Yeah.
That's where we used to hang out. We used to hang out during the weekends on there, go fish,
My dad
go hunt.
and my uncle Louis, they were building Hill's house
Okay.
in Anini.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go down with him and we would take the boat and go out in the channel and fish while they were. And you know, the thing is, nobody thought, oh, the kids are going out in the ocean with the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody going to fall off the boat and drown. But we never had life jackets.
Right.
And we went out and we fished. And then when they were done, they would holler to us and we would come in and go home.
Yeah.
But that was all the time. We did that quite a bit.
Wow.
Fish was plentiful.
Yes.
Not anymore.
Even, I don't know if you know what is popoklo.
Filipino limo.
Filipino
I don't know
limo,
what
the
the-
green one.
Limo.
It's like
I
a
need it.
Spanish.
Hawaii ole.
Oh wow.
Oh, excuse me, I don't know the name.
Gary knows the Hawaiian name.
I know
Anyway,
which one. Yeah.
The
That was
kind,
popular.
my-
And the red limo, we used to go pick
Pilau.
Kūlau Beach or something. Yeah?
pilau.
But the
We would
pocket
go
was
and-
good.
What is that called?
Yeah.
The,
Yeah.
the red one.
Yeah.
And once we went, we were picking the limo, and a big shark came right by the reef, and my dad saw it. He said,
Oh.
"Let's go."
Oh.
And he wouldn't stick around. And I don't know if anybody would believe this, but I used to torch with my dad. I was his fishing partner. And we would go torching. And twice it happened to us. I yelled at my dad and I said, "Dad, look, look." Out in the ocean, a house was burning on the water.
In the ocean.
Yep, you look out in the ocean, a big house. You could see all the flames coming out.
Oh.
And I would scream to my dad, "Look, look, Dad, the house is burning out there." He said, "Let's go." He said, "That's a bad sign. Let's go." Twice we saw that.
What happened after?
Nothing. We left.
But that was the omen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my dad said that when he used to ride the horse at night in the fields, they had to go and check. And they would see Madam Pele riding her white horse, all in white. And they would see her riding by
In Kīlauea.
in Kīlauea cane fields. My
Yes.
dad said,
Esmak Nakagoshi. His father, Hemo, he used to go go eat Kinko Saimin,
Okay.
where Pono, you know where Kauai Marine is, right in that area? There was a Kinko's Saimin stand. The floor was all crooked, it had cockroaches running around, but the Saimin was really good. So he went there, had Saimin, and then he was coming home by himself down in Moloa. And there's spooks down there. My godfather saw the headless dog while Hemo was coming and had this young girl alongside the road. So he said, "Hey, you want to ride?" She said, "Yeah." So he says, "Come in the front." "No, I'm going to sit in the back." So she sat down in the back. Then he says, "Oh, you like smokes?" She said, "Yeah." So he gave her one smokes. And then he says, wait, let me give you the match. She said, "No, I don't need." With her finger,
No.
there was a flame,
Oh my gosh.
and she lit her cigarette. And Hemo went like, "Oh no." So then he's driving, he's talking to her, and they going down in the valley, coming up by the horseshoe turn where we call.
You know the
And
old road.
every time, she take a puff, he could see her hair was turning white, until he had reached almost on the top where the Ko'olau church is, that you can go down Larson's Beach. Right there, he turned around and he says, "You okay?" He had turned around, she was all white, and he had stopped going, and he turned around again and she had gone.
Oh.
He had paddled to the meadow, make it come home, and he went in his garage. In front of his garage was the one big mango tree that separated their house from Hemo's house. He went right through the garage until he had hit the mango tree. After that, Hemo became an alcoholic
Oh my gosh.
because of seeing Pele.
Oh.
He was,
She
you know,
appeared a
he
lot
was
in those days.
so.
She did.
Yeah, he couldn't share. He used to be one of the main guys that used to boil the molasses to crystallize to make sugar.
Okay.
That was his job. And Kat Nakazawa was his boss. Couple times he had dropped the load and the thing was not crystallized. So when they tried making the sugar, they couldn't because it was too watery. So they had to go hook up pumps and throw the whole batch away. And it was like about 500 gallons.
Oh my gosh.
So they took a big loss. So after that, Kat Nakazawa told him, "Before you drop the load, you let me know. Because there's this shaft that, they pull out and then they could see the crystals and they looked at it with a magnifying glass to be sure that the crystals was big enough to dry." But that was his primary job, and Kat had to literally sit with him
Wow.
because he drank every day because of seeing Pele as he did.
Well, you know, once there was an accident and a car went right when, before you make the hairpin turn, and a car had gone down, and the people were screaming when they seen the lights come on, screaming, help, help. Well, the people that were driving, they thought, oh no, there's ghosts in here. And everybody just went, nobody stopped.
Oh my gosh.
Because all they heard was the voices, and they thought, oh, there's ghosts in here now. And they just passed, nobody stopped to help.
Wow.
They didn't know that there were people that had gone over the cliff.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So when we were in high school, whenever we went to Kapa to go Dairy Queen for eat 10-cent scones or mingle with the Kapa gang, we always had at least 4 or 5 of us in the car coming home. And then if you had a date, you'd have to rendezvous at Dairy Queen and 2 cars would come home. Hey, I had one Dodge sedan. We had suicide doors.
Yes.
And then one of the guys, the back window, you know, get that little thing, ended up there because you figure you get Harry, Bobby, Donald, you know, all the small pikes in the car, all the legs all tangled, never had enough room. Mitchell was the smallest, so he ended up in the back there,
Oh my goodness.
by the back window.
I don't know if it still happens, but the tree tunnel, if you pass through there midnight with pork, your car dies.
Oh.
You can't, it just dies. And you're
Moloa
not going
too.
to move it.
Moloa too, you're not supposed to drive after 12 with pork in your car.
If you do, you gotta put them
Any
in
kind
between
of
your
pork.
legs.
I don't even heard that one, but
Any
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
what they
pork,
say.
to drive with
your
pork.
car dies and you're not going to start it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're going to
the
sit
horse
there
should
until
do
the
that.
next day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey,
Interesting.
But
it
you know,
happened to
people who
us.
feel, okay, I'm going to do it. It doesn't happen.
Oh yeah. Of course not.
It
'Cause they're
doesn't
just
happen.
testing.
A lot of the younger people say, I'm going to
But
carry
it
the
happened
pork,"
to
and
you.
Well,
it doesn't
one time,
happen.
what happened was the Jose Yadao, he had the bus service, and he used to run the school bus to go football.
Yeah.
So going to the football game, right where the Tronis house is, you know, in Moloa, going down the hill, the bus stopped.
Oh.
The lights went out, couldn't do nothing. So he went across, used their phone, called me up, hey, go pick up the other bus. We gotta take these kids to the football game. So I picked up the other bus, picked them up. We went to the football game, came home Saturday morning. He says, we gotta go. So he loaded up batteries and everything in his truck. So he went, tried to test the back. So I said, yeah, you know, let me try to see what happens. So I go, I turn on the switch at the toggle switch, and then there's a buzzer that come on that tells you that you have low air. So I turned them on and the buzzer went off. So I yelled at him, hey, Jose, watch out. He says, why? I said, get away from the back of the truck, the bus. I went there, I pressed the button, the bus started up. He says, what did you do? I said, I had turned on the toggle switch, the buzzer went off, I had pressed the button and it started up. He said, last night, the whole thing never had no lights, no nothing. I said, you know what, you better bring tea leaf the next time you drive nighttime.
Oh.
But
We could go
you know,
on and on with
it's-
those stories.
yeah,
Anyway,
even
Gary-
Moloa, the long hill, the
Yeah.
long hill Moloa,
Interesting.
the long hill Moloa, same thing. You cannot get raw pork. If you driving nighttime with raw pork, you gotta put them in between your legs.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah,
I know there are no record. They didn't
What-
recommend.
my dad told me that.
What does that do? Put it between
Because it's between your legs, the evil spirits don't want to go there.
Oh. Okay.
I never heard that one, but I know you're not
Yeah,
supposed to
but-
carry pork.
Yeah, don't carry pork at night.
Tell the guys the car stop.
And you go the next day, vroom, start up and go.
That's so interesting. My goodness.
Yeah,
You know, you gotta respect.
Yes.
You gotta respect Pele and her tradition. You know,
A lot of people don't believe.
Until it happens to you.
when it happens to you, then you go,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
That's why a lot of people, they go to the Big Island the volcano and they take rocks home
Oh yes.
and they get sick and then they send it back and it's
And then they're magically healed.
Yep.
Did you have any other questions?
Gary Smith.
Uncle Gary, did you have any other
What?
questions?
I was gonna ask about superstitions and stuff like that, but
There you
covered
go.
it- you covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
You ask
Hey.
anybody from the old timers, they'll tell you about the Hoshuto and Moloa.
You know,
It's like that.
the other place is Lumuhai. You know, you driving around and then get that hole in between as you're going into Lumuhai Valley. From Lumuhai on the top, there's that cut in the mountain. They've tried paving that how many times? Like they had cleaned the thing, they had put the base rock and everything. They come there with the paving machine. The hillside caves in.
because there's
They
the
go-
pathway of the dead.
Everything was good.
That's why.
Oh.
It's the pathway of the dead, so they never get there. But you can, if you go and Google it, and you go to the things that happen like that, it's there.
They get like Honolulu too.
Yeah. My friend comes from Oahu and he lives in San Diego, and he says they have the one from Honolulu and Kauai, and he said, do not read it before you're going to bed.
It's scary.
He said it's scary.
I get the book.
Yeah,
Legends and Kahunas.
yeah. You can Google it and read it.
But
But we grew up with that.
Right.
Grew up with
What
that.
about night marchers?
They said, sometimes the cars stop until these guys all cross.
Oh.
they said
But
down
they would-
Lumuhai, like especially.
The Portuguese used to
You know,
say,
they got stop in
do
the Molo
not
Hill.
leave your clothes on the clothesline, because after 6 o'clock, the spirits wander, and they go through the clothes, and it's not good.
What about some of the Portuguese superstitions and spinales and kubrank and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Did you
It
have
still
some-
happens.
did
What
you
is
have-
that?
Did you have somebody
Some-
in Kīlauea that was a go-to person for that?
My Auntie Mary, my father's sister.
Uh,
It still happens
Penquenes.
because
And what
I
was,
just had it.
what was Mary's?
Panquitas.
Yeah, no, but what was Mary's? How did she get to become that person?
The Pacheco family they can,
She had the gift,
they have the gift of,
spiritual.
they can see spirits.
So they brought this tradition with them.
What tradition?
My auntie was born
They
in
brought
Kīlauea.
the practice with them.
They can prophesy and they can heal. They can pray over you and heal you.
And that
Yeah.
was what your auntie
That,
did,
yeah,
Auntie Mary.
and I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of the Pachecos, they have that gift.
What about whistling at night?
No, that's
I
not
don't know
good.
why they done
My
no
mom
whistling.
always said, you're calling the evil spirits.
And no cut your nails at
And
night.
then
Is that a Portuguese
if you
thing?
had,
I don't know.
I know, because I grew up with those
traveling.
things too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What is that,
While
Gary?
they were in transit, you couldn't listen to the radio.
yeah,
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, let
And
me
my-
tell you.
They said, never turn your broom upside down.
Oh.
Don't sweep at night.
Because
I heard
they,
that.
they said the faceros cannot go home.
Oh.
And if you'll get up in the morning and you'll find bruises on your body here and there. You'll find maybe only one or two, sometimes more. And they said it's like the bad fairies.
Oh.
They can't go as long as that broom is upside down.
Interesting.
So never put it that way.
Huh.
You turn it the right way.
Wow.
Yeah.
When I used to work for the plantation and I used to walk home,
Mm-hmm.
my Auntie Mary would be sitting down on her porch and she'd look at me and she said, go home and shave and come back.
You know, my
She just knew
yeah,
that I had opuhuli.
my
And then
grand,
she put the cup with she put a piece of cotton with oil and burn it and then put it, she
Oh, yeah.
pray around here and then she put it and then you'd see the skin just be pulled up
Ooh.
Yeah, it does come up.
and
And
then it's straightening out your gut.
and they even did it if you had sun in your head.
He had sun in the head.
Yeah.
What is that?
You
I
get
had terrific
terrible
headaches.
headache.
They cure that with the glass.
I took
like
him.
migraines.
I don't
More
know
than
my grandma.
migraines.
More than
I
migraines.
took
It
him my
was,
auntie's house, and she told me be there before 12,
That's
during the day,
at a certain time.
and then she put on towel on his head, and then a cup with water, and she put him on his head. The water don't drip.
Interesting.
She pray or whatever, you can see the water boil on his head. You gotta do it 3 times. So 3 days I had to take him.
And then Paul.
And she told him,
My wife witnessed it. I told her, I gotta go. I was working plantation. I gotta go because I used to run around without a hat.
oh,
And she said, no, you gotta wear one hat. So she had this special white towel. She had the stool, and she centered it on her porch, her deck.
who?
And to Mary.
Outside in the sun.
Outside in the sun.
Not
Yeah.
on the porch, outside in the sun.
Anyway, on a
I
cement.
had to take him so I know.
Anyway, my wife witnessed it, and she had this special white towel with that same glass that she used for the opohuli. She filled it with water, and then she put the towel on it. And then she went, she filled around, she prayed, and then she had put the thing. And my wife saw the thing bubbling. She went, whoa. After, the thing stopped, then she took the towel down. She opened it up and had rings. Only where the cup was it wet. The rest of the towel. And you figure one towel
Absorb.
gonna absorb everything. But only where the cup was, the whole towel had that round rings.
So have other like generations to come, do they still have that gift?
They had one lady in Puhi, but I don't know if she still does it.
What about in your family though?
My Linda used to do it, and now my grandson, and the father and my granddaughter, they know how to do it. In fact, my granddaughter, she works in that thrift store in Hanapepe, the Habitat one.
Yep.
My granddaughter works there, and she said that she had to work, her hours had changed in the evening, and everybody had gone home, and she said she kind of wanted to straighten things out. And she said she was just working and doing it, and all of a sudden she heard a voice. Said, you need to leave right now. Move, get out of here right now. And she said, she looked around and she said, she didn't see anybody. She said, where did that voice come from? And then she heard it again. You need to leave. She said, nah. I got so scared. I grabbed my bag, I went out, I locked the door, and I went home. This just happened.
Oh my.
Yeah. Manalay.
Goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know if, anybody, does practice it. But I know way back had Dr. Cockett. I used to go to him. And this lady came in with her baby screaming. So he examined the baby and he told the mother, I cannot do nothing. He said, you're the doctor, you cannot do anything. He says, you go find one lady, a Portuguese lady that massages. And he gave him a couple names. She went, and then a couple days later, she came back. The baby was playing and everything. The doctor says, oh? She says, doc, I went in. Normally my baby was screaming and everything. The lady took the baby and the baby was quiet. She massaged her stomach and she fell asleep. She slept right through the whole night.
But you have to do it 3 times.
Yeah, and then you gotta
Can't
put
do it only.
Hawaiian style.
3 times.
Uneven number.
Yeah.
Not even.
3 times, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys forgot about Bella Lam.
Yeah, she was Auntie Bella was the daughter of Auntie Mary, and she used to do opohuli and everything else.
I went 5 o'clock in the morning to her house. I used to live on the main road.
Oh yeah.
Walk her house, take my child and come back. My husband's still home with the rest of the kids. And by 5 o'clock, I call her. We should wake up for the husband.
But yeah,
I was told that Cornell is the one that carries on.
He does, yeah. Cornell does now.
My grandchildren does, but they're in Hanapepe. Yeah. My daughter used to go. They used to call her even to Oahu. They said you have to come. And when was her funeral? All the people that she had helped and cured, the mortuary was full and all outside, and they all come up to me and they said, you know, your daughter really helped us. Said my son would have died if your daughter didn't pray over her and heal him and cure him. And I mean, and they all came up and told me this, and I said, wow.
What an impact she had, yeah?
yeah.
She did. She would come Kīlauea, and the family, she was to help them and pray over them.
You
No
know,
matter
it's,
what
you
she's
don't pass
doing,
it.
if you call her,
She can do
drops
over the
everything.
phone when you call her too. I said when you call her too, she
I
can
used
do
to call
over
her.
the phone.
I used to call her from San Diego. I used to say, Lena, something is wrong with me. Will you check me? A couple
Yeah,
of
she can
hours
check.
later, she checked me. She said, what this is actually happened once. She said, Mom, you went to the casino, eh? And I said, yeah. She said, well, you brought home a spirit, a bad spirit with you from the casino.
Oh my.
He came home with you. That's what's wrong. And I said, what? She said, yes. And
Well,
then
put
she
the money
cured
back.
me. And then she said to me, Mom, the next time if you go to the casino, when you're walking out, you say, bad spirit, stay here. Don't go home with me. She said, you need to say that, Mom.
Wow.
She said, so they don't go home with you.
Oh my goodness.
They do.
She was good, really good.
She was powerful in doing that, in curing. But the thing is, every time she helps somebody, see, the whole thing goes on her.
Yeah.
And then she has to deal with that every time that she has to do
And the same thing with the lady Pooh, you know, the
Yeah.
Pooh Granton.
Yeah. You know, years ago, we were young, and they took my brother Alfred to
Marijuana
home, and this really bothered. Well, there was this Tavis girl,
What?
the whistler.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they went. The priest went and everything. They didn't know if it was a good spirit in her or a bad spirit. But the cars that were there line up all down the
Just to
road
hear her.
Wow.
just to go see her. And my parents said, we have to go. And just to find out if my brother is okay and if one day he's going to come back to Kauai. And she told my parents, yeah, he's going to come back. And it happened just how she said. But people would go. I
You
mean,
remember the whistle?
lines
Remember
and
Whistler.
lines and lines of cars were all over the place
My goodness.
that they wanted to go. The spirit just possessed her,
Wow.
and she couldn't go anywhere.
Oh my goodness.
And the church was trying to determine to see
Good or bad.
good or bad. And I never found out if it was good or bad, but people wanted to know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the old days, things like that happened more, and I guess because you grew up with the Hawaiians and their culture,
I
and
wish they had written a book.
you know what
Yeah.
they did, and you know how they cured people, and you know my auntie always said, some people just have a bad eye. They don't realize it, but they just look at you. And it's like, boom, you get kubrant.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's
Be
jealousy
envious
too.
of you.
Unless you folks have any final.
We kind of drifted
Thoughts?
off.
That's
on
okay.
Different things.
That's okay.
No.
It's alright.
Really appreciate you guys taking the time and effort to, ask us, common people to come and share.
The old
Oh my
folks from
goodness.
plantation days.
Well, I mean, you
Gary.
guys are the reason why Kīlauea is